Okay, good morning. This is Richard Hsu, host of Hsu Untied. This morning, I'm very pleased and thrilled to have with me my former colleague and close friend, Phil Richter, who's a partner at Fried Frank. Phil, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Richard. It's my pleasure, and we've known each other for over 30 years. I've been at Free Frank for 30 years, and Richard, you were my first and probably my best friend in law school when we started at Columbia 33 years ago. So
Yeah,
great,
yeah.
great to see you again. Great to catch up, and great to chat.
Yeah. And I believe also you are the first Columbia Law School classmate to be on my podcast, too. So you have that distinct honor as well.
Oh wow, I feel highly honored.
Well, Phil, let me ask you a question I never asked you. I probably should have asked you this on the first day of law school, but what made you decide to want to be a lawyer in the first place? Was it a childhood dream? Your mom told you should be a lawyer? Why did you want to become a lawyer?
It's an excellent question, and it was almost an accident.
Really?
When I was an undergrad, I was in undergrad. It was actually in the late 80s,
Uh-huh.
or late 80s, early 90s,
Uh-huh.
and there was a recession going on. And when I was graduating from college, there wasn't anything that any of the jobs that I was able to get were not all that interesting to me.
Huh.
Uh, but when I was in undergrad, I took a couple of law classes. I took constitutional law, I took business law, I took other law classes, and those were the best classes I took as an undergrad.
Mm.
The most interesting, I thought, the most intellectually stimulating, and I didn't see a whole lot else going on in the world that interests me at that point. So I went and took the LSAT and did somewhat decently, applied to law school, and got into the same law school that you got into. So I figured I made a good decision.
Well, tell me before when you went to college, what were your career ambitions at that point, or did you have any ideas?
It was not very well thought out.
Okay.
I'll be honest.
Okay.
I was, I'm, nice Jewish boy who was going to be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, or something like that that would make my parents proud. But
Yeah.
it wasn't a particularly thought out
Okay.
uh, thing, and it wasn't like I woke up in the morning when I was a 12-year-old boy and said, "Hey, I want to go to law school and become a lawyer."
Yeah,
Uh,
interesting. Huh.
but I am very happy with my decision.
Well, tell me, when you went to law school, did you know what kind of lawyer you were going to be? I mean, obviously you became an M&A lawyer, but was that your goal, or were you thinking about being a litigator? What did you think at the time?
Again, it wasn't something that I focused on when I was in law school. I will say that when I was in law school my first year or two, I took a lot of what people might call soft classes, constitutional law, which I loved, a lot of other classes that were not particularly M&A or business focused.
Right.
And then I got to Fried Frank as a summer associate, and I realized I needed to learn a little bit more. So my last year of law school was probably my most difficult year because I was taking securities law and corporate tax and M&A and all the things that I thought I needed to know to practice law in a New York corporate law firm,
Yeah, yeah.
which all actually helped me a lot. But you were probably having a good time in your third year of law school, and I was working pretty hard.
Well, did you just fall in love with M&A, or did you ever even try litigation or anything like that?
Well, so the story is interesting. So when I came to Fried Frank in my first year, Fried Frank allowed you to pick the different groups that you wanted to be a part of, and I thought I was going to do real estate, and that
Okay.
wasn't a very good reason for that, but I wanted to join the real estate group, and the real estate group was smaller than it is now, and they said, well, we will take you the second 6 months, not the first 6 months, and you can go to M&A. So I went to M&A, and I started working with a lot of really good lawyers, partners who've become my mentors and are still my mentors. And after 6 months, I was approached and said, "Well, do you want to go to real estate?" And I said, "You know what? I actually know something. I feel useful, and I'm getting really well mentored,
Mm.
and I'm gonna stay in M&A." So that's how I became an M&A lawyer, by
Mm.
giving up my opportunity to try something else. So I never tried being a litigator. I never tried being a real estate lawyer. I never tried being a tax lawyer. All the other options, because I really like the people in the M&A group. And look, I may have had a similar experience had I started in real estate
Yeah,
or
right,
in
right.
some other group, but that was where I really felt that it clicked with me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It had clicked very early on.
Well, what do you think about it really click with you? I mean, is it the deal intensity? Is it the size of the deals? I mean, what is it about M&A you think that clicks with the Phil Richter personality?
Yeah, I don't know that it was the intensity or the size of the deal, and in some ways, in M&A, size doesn't matter, in terms of complexity. But I found that you were using your legal skills, but really serving as a business advisor to
Mm,
your clients, and
mm,
that's what I saw the people who I was working with. I was a first year at that point, but people were the best lawyers, and these are the people I was working with, were people who were trained to advise their client to achieve their business objectives. This was definitely not like being in law school. You were not rattling off cases or statutes, and if you didn't talk about statutes, you were trying to work with the client in almost in a partnership, to help the client to achieve their goals. And
mm,
so you were mostly, and I still consider myself this, and this is the way I practice law. I'm a business advisor from a legal perspective,
mm,
and I find that those are the way I'm most effective and able to build the best relationships with my clients. And what I find is the better the relationship is, and one of mutual trust and understanding, the better it is for the client, the better it is for the outcome. And for me, it makes the intensity that you were talking about, much more bearable, and not even just tolerable, sometimes even enjoyable, because you're really focused on a goal alongside your client.
yeah, yeah. Well, tell me, I mean, fast forward 25 years, how has your practice kind of evolved now? I mean, how would you describe it today? Do you work in are you focused in certain industries, certain segments of the market, or, is it pretty much all over the place? Describe it for me.
Yeah, well, it focus it it focuses on certain industries almost, but those are where the clients have come from. So it's not I sat down and said, "Hey, I want to focus on this industry or another industry." A lot of healthcare, and that's a big area at Fried Frank, um, to begin with. But also, REITs. Free Frank
Mm,
has a really big real estate practice. There's a lot of REIT M&A that we do.
mm,
There, interestingly, I do a lot of shipping M&A,
hmm,
M&A and the shipping and transportation, or what now is called logistics. So that is another area where
hmm,
do a lot of M&A, do a lot of M&A in media,
hmm,
uh,
hmm,
TV, those types of transactions.
hmm,
Done deals in gaming. So it's really, you learn the industry,
hmm,
and you figure out what you need to do. But ultimately, you're working with a lot of other, what I'll call specialist lawyers on regulatory issues. If you're dealing with TV, you're dealing with the FCC. You're dealing with gaming. There are obviously lots of gaming regulators, but it's trying to use the advice you're getting from these lawyers, what I'll call a specialist, to really help the client frame a business objective and find the path to achieving that business objective.
yeah. Are
Um,
you,
so, so it really, it almost, it, it's obviously good to have the experience, and it's critical, and it's always very helpful. But you can figure most of that out.
Mhm.
And I find that with, Fried Frank doesn't have a gaming practice and doesn't have an FCC practice. And we work with other lawyers, and, rather than working with somebody who might be at Fried Frank, I always encourage clients to find the best lawyers out there who do these specialized things, and then we'll work with them.
Mhm.
So I think it actually, benefits the client. So I like to think about myself as more of a boutique M&A lawyer. And focus on core M&A, and have other resources that help with some of the specialties that come along with it.
Yeah. Do you do mostly buy side or mostly sell side, or 50-50 over the years? What would you say your ratio has been?
It's probably 50-50.
Mm.
It's, do a lot of public company work, both on the buy side and on the sell side. Public company transactions, when you sell your client, you're selling your client. So that's always, you hope it's a great outcome for the client and the shareholders. It's often bittersweet, but, we've been fortunate in a lot of transactions where we've represented targets and sold the targets to the buyer, and then 6 months later, the buyer's, general counsel or CEO calls me up and says, we saw you on that deal, and we bought X and Y company. We'd like you to work on a deal for us. Would you be open to that?
Mhm.
And I always view that as the greatest compliment, when somebody who is your quote opponent, if you will,
Mm.
says, "Hey, I like the way you conducted yourself. I like the way you were creative, you were practical, and, we'd like you to work with us." So, in a lot of ways, that's one of the ways I've gotten a lot of, been able to develop relationships with clients, is people who worked alongside me or opposite me on transactions.
Yeah, yeah. Now you've been doing M&A for many, many years. Does it ever get old?
It's always changing. It's always changing. The market's always changing. The regulatory environment is always changing. The agreements are always getting longer. One of the things you learn is agreements never become shorter. They always become longer. There's always some other provision that somebody dreams up, and then, especially with public M&A and M&A generally, the the agreements that we work on are all public. So
Yeah, yeah.
we all see what's done in different deals, and, so in that way, nobody doesn't want to have a provision that someone else had, but it also, even though the agreements are generally public, it's, the skill is trying to figure out what was done in a different deal that's actually going to be useful to your deal, rather than just, using whatever other provisions have been used. But ultimately, the agreement's important. But what's really most important that I find as the lawyer is the role I play, advising, CEOs, boards of directors, people making business decisions, and helping them make those decisions in a way that's most thoughtful, and obviously protects them from a legal perspective.
Yeah. Well, now that you're a senior partner, if I can call you that, do you do a lot of time now mentoring younger lawyers?
I try, but probably we should always do more. Look, one of the things that I've been grateful about at Fried Frank, and I think this is sort of within the DNA of the firm, is there's a very strong culture of mentorship, which I
Yeah.
try. I always think I should be doing more, because the people who I worked with, some of which you still work at Fried Frank, were always available for me, and mentored me, and trained me. And that's really part of the DNA of the firm, and, why I think, our associates come, one of the key reasons people come to Fried Frank is that reputation, for mentorship, and how we view ourselves as business lawyers.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you obviously love what you do, but could you see yourself ever doing anything else at some point in your career?
Well, I was talking to somebody who decided to do something else in his career. Yeah, look, I'm very happy with what I'm doing. So I don't see myself, doing something different. And,
Yeah.
I kind of know where my skills are, and what I'm good at, and what I might be less good at. So I probably am not going to be competing with Hsu Untied anytime soon.
Well, Phil, this has been a wonderful conversation. It was so nice to catch up with you after, as you say, 30 plus years. If you do happen to decide something else, please come back and tell me about it.
Great to see you, and would love, recommend. I've seen other of your podcasts, including with some of my colleagues, and you're doing really great work. So great to see you, and great to chat with you.
This is Richard Hsu and Phil Richter. Thanks.
Thank you.